future of the web really going to look like? What are the most successful websites going to feel like and act like come 2026? Well, let's dive in and break down the top design trends that are literally shaping the future right now. Hey, welcome to the NBOS channel. We're all about giving you actionable insights you can use to build smarter systems and pull in better traffic. And today, we're doing exactly that. We're looking at the future of web design with strategies you can start planning for today. You know, if you take away just one single word from this whole explainer, let it be this one: balance. The websites that win in 2026 won't just be pretty or just be fast. No, they're going to strike this really careful balance between being fast, inclusive, emotionally engaging, and super helpful. So here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to look at three main pillars of design: making sites more expressive and emotional, making them feel dynamic and alive, and of course, building them on a smart, structured foundation. And then we're going to tie it all together with the most important trend of them all: responsibility. All right, first up, pillar number one, expressive and emotional design. This is all about ditching those sterile, minimalist layouts and actually forging a real human connection with your users. And a key trend here is something called dopamine decor. It's basically a full-on rebellion against years of boring, neutral, beige interfaces. The whole idea is to use these vibrant, saturated colors to intentionally create little bursts of joy and just inject some energy and positivity into the experience. And just so we're clear, we are not talking about subtle pastels here. The palettes are completely, unapologetically bold. We're talking poppy reds, electric blues, acid greens. These colors are chosen to make a statement and to make you feel something positive. Now, what's really fascinating is that this isn't just some artsy trend. It's actually backed by science. Researchers are working on what they call the semantic gap. Basically, they're mapping how low-level things, like the specific colors we see, connect to high-level things, like the actual emotions we feel. So that little hit of joy you get from a bright yellow? Yeah, there's data to back that up. But this pillar is so much bigger than just color. It's about a pushback against that overly polished, maybe AI-generated sense of perfection. We're seeing this comeback of hand-drawn elements, little scribble accents, and typography that just screams personality. The goal here is to make websites feel more authentic, more human, and frankly, more memorable. Okay, let's move on to our second pillar, which really builds on the first: making websites feel dynamic and alive. You know, if pillar one gives a site personality, pillar two gives it a pulse. A huge part of this is a technique called scrollytelling. This is where different animations and bits of content appear as the user scrolls down the page. It completely transforms passive browsing into this active, engaging journey. You're not just reading anymore, you're kind of part of a story, and the designer gets to control the pacing to make everything easier to digest and remember. And scrollytelling is just one tool in the toolbox. We're also seeing kinetic typography that brings words to life, subtle 3D elements that add depth, parallax motion that creates this cool illusion of space, and even tiny little micro-interactions, like a button changing when you hover over it, that make the whole thing feel responsive and alive. Okay, so we've got a site that's emotional and it's alive. But none of that matters one bit if it's slow, clunky, and confusing, right? And that brings us to pillar three, the smart and structured backbone that makes everything else work. Two key trends are really taking over here. First, Bento grids. These modular, card-like layouts are amazing for organizing a ton of different content in a really clean, scannable way. Second, variable fonts. Honestly, this is a game changer. It's an entire font family packed into a single file, which makes your site way faster while giving designers incredible flexibility with typography. We're also seeing this massive evolution with AI. I mean, forget those clunky, scripted chatbots from a few years ago. The future is what some people are calling chat buds, these friendly, smart assistants that actually remember your conversation. And then there's the next level, Agentic AI, which can just go and do complex tasks for you, like finding and booking a meeting time that works for everyone, all without you ever leaving the website. But the foundation for all of this, the one thing you absolutely cannot ignore: speed. This isn't just a trend anymore, it is a hard requirement. Core web vitals directly impact your SEO rankings and user happiness. A beautiful, dynamic site that's slow is, quite simply, a failed site. And this brings us to our final and honestly the most important principle of all. This is the one that ties everything we've talked about together. It's not about how it looks or how it performs alone, it's about responsibility. So this poses a really critical question, right? How do we take that pillar one trend of bold, expressive colors and make sure it works with a fundamental need for accessibility? How do we create that dopamine decor experience that everyone can use, including people with visual impairments who need high color contrast? Well, here's the really good news. According to recent research, this is a very solvable problem. The potential is huge. Over 77% of color accessibility violations can be fixed automatically. And get this, without destroying the brand's aesthetic. The solution lies in some pretty advanced algorithms, like this one, perceptually minimal color optimization. Now, that's a mouthful, but in simple terms, it's a smart system that finds the closest possible accessible color. It works by making tiny adjustments to a color's brightness and saturation, but, and this is the key part, it never changes the original hue. Here's how it works in 3 simple steps. First, it analyzes the contrast between 2 colors. If it fails the standard, it starts to mathematically adjust the brightness and saturation to find a version that passes. But, and this is so crucial, it preserves the original hue. That means your brand's electric blue stays blue. It just becomes a slightly different shade of blue that everyone can see properly. It's design harmony, achieved with code. So after going through all these different trends, what does the actual blueprint for a top-tier website in 2026 look like? Okay, let's put it all together. Here it is, the 2026 mandate. Your website absolutely must be human, creating a real emotional connection. It must be balanced, blending that bold look with a high-performance structure. It has to feel alive, using motion to create immersive experiences. And most importantly, it must be responsible, built from the ground up with speed and accessibility baked right in. Ultimately, these trends aren't just about looking cool or modern. They're about telling a more effective, more engaging, and a more inclusive story. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. Your website is already telling a story about your brand. What do you want that story to be in 2026?